That's Mark Keller. We called Michelle. She was on her honeymoon or on her anniversary dinner or something, and we couldn't get a hold of.
We are on.
We're on, okay. All right, good evening, everybody. This is the Harwich Board of Selectmen meeting for Thursday, July 11th, 20.
Finance Committee.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thursday, July 11th, 2024. We'll call the meeting to order. I just want everybody to know that at the meeting tonight in person, we have Mark Keller here, Scott Norm, Bob McCready, myself, Peter Hughes, the chairman, and by phone, via phone from Alaska. What town are you in Alaska, Dana? TOK, Alaska. Population what? Seven? Okay, all right. All right. Dana is participating by phone, and I just want to declare a quorum so everybody knows that, and we're officially here. Now, if anybody in the audience, we are recording this. If you have any intention of recording this, please contact the chair, and we'll have a discussion about that. We have none. I see none. So the first order of business are the minutes of June 6, 2024. Would someone care to make a motion to adopt those?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and second to adopt the minutes of June 6, 2024. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. We'll do a roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Dana? Chairman's an aye, so 5-0. I'm just taking notes in case something goes wrong with the recording. Okay, under new business, I'm just saying that for the public, not necessarily you, Dana, but that's okay. Under new business, the finance director, Kathleen Barrett, is with us tonight. Sent us a request for budget transfers for end of year 2024, which is standard practice. It is dated June 24th, 2024. Is that the correct one?
Yes.
June 20, okay. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 items in total are identified as transfers or transfer requests. And the total of that request is $421,700. Is that correct, Kathleen?
It is.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve, don't go away. I would entertain a motion to approve the request for a transfer as requested by the finance director in the amount of $421,700.
Okay. I will move that we approve and authorize the finance director to transfer $421,700.
There a second?
Second that.
Okay. So moved and seconded to authorize or approve the transfer. Any discussion? Kathleen, do you have any need to?
What I was going to do is it was to just, this is everything that was given in your packet. There's just a small clarification. Board member Howell had questions about the issues with the Cape Cod Commission budget, and I just included additional documentation for that because of the way cherry sheet and documentation and figures are come out. So it was what happened that caused the shortage was the FY23 amount for Barnstable County tax and the Cape Cod Commission tax. Those numbers carried forward into were used for the 24 budget, and you never know really how it's going to go, and it actually went up, and that's the reason for it. It wasn't that there was additional services or changes. It was just the prior year's budget number.
Okay,
Because the
and
way
the
the
selectmen approved
information-
this 5-0, right?
Sorry?
The selectmen approved these 5-0?
They did, yes.
Yeah. So-
They had just, select board member Howell had some question about
Yeah,
the Cape
that's
Cod
okay.
Commission. So just to be transparent, and I will provide that information at the June 22nd select board meeting.
Okay.
Just so everybody has the full packet.
Okay, all right, thank
Thank
you, we
you.
appreciate that. All right, any further discussion? Dana, do you have any questions? Okay, good, all right, so hearing none, we'll put it to a vote again. What you're voting for is to approve the transfer, end-of-year transfer of a total of $421,700 as requested by the finance director. Okay? All those in favor of that motion? Mark?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye.
Dana? Chairman's an aye, 5-0, so it passes, it's approved. So I'll sign this, that's what you need,
Yes,
right?
if you would, please, I'd appreciate
Okay,
it.
so hang on a second, Dana, I'm gonna sign this and, what'd you have for lunch?
He's in Alaska.
Might be
7 hours or
breakfast.
so.
Yeah,
Pizza.
yeah. Salmon.
Beer.
Nope, thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Dana, while you're on the phone, we have FinCom reorganization for the year ahead of us, just so you know. So why don't we, anybody have any motion? So we have 3 positions we need, well, yeah, okay, let's work with 3 positions. We have chair, vice chair, and clerk. What's your druthers? I'm not talking necessarily you, Dana, but, you know, if you have any druthers, that's okay.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Peter Hughes as chair for next year.
Second.
Can we do a slate?
We could do a slate.
No, let's do, all right, Milo,
But I
I know
don't-
where you're going, let's do that one at a time, okay. All right, so you guys want me to keep going on this, so, all right, any other nominations? All right, so moved and seconded, that I should do this. Who seconded it?
Mark.
Okay.
Sorry, Scott. You should-
We'll put that
you
to
do
a
it
vote.
all the time, So it's easier.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Dana? Okay, I'm abstaining, so it's 4-0. Get it? I know, well, yeah, exactly. I'm the -1. All right, so for vice chair, I have a motion.
I'll move that
Thank,
Bob McCready continues as vice chair of the committee.
there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, Bob McCready continue on as vice chair. Discussion. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
You're voting for yourself? That's
Why
good.
not?
All right. Aye.
I can.
All right, you're at
That's the
5-0.
spirit.
All right, good for you. All right. Clerk. You want to keep doing it?
I'll keep doing it unless somebody else wants to do it.
Oh, great. Then I would move that Mark Kelleher continue as clerk.
Second.
Thank you.
Hang on, I'm making notes. Okay, so it's moved and seconded that Mark Kelleher be our clerk for the coming year. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll put that to a vote. Mark?
Aye.
Oh, good for
Aye.
you.
Aye.
Dana? Okay, chair is an aye, 5-0. Okay, now, the only other thing we need you on the phone for, you're welcome to stay on as long as you'd like, but FinCom liaisons for the coming year. I did send out the spreadsheet of liaisons. I'll just say that the 4-member team is going to be put together for the end of the year operating budget review. The FinCom liaison we identified a couple weeks ago is Bob McCready, so there's no reason to do anything there. The same with the Brooks Academy Working Group. Scott and I started on that process with the team yesterday. Charter Review Committee, Dan Torek has been on that before, and Dana, you've been on it too. I'm assuming you want to stay on that. Okay, okay. So then Dan Torek, who's not here, requested to be the CPC guy and also the library liaison. So I just filled those 2 slots in, and I know, Bob, you responded to me, and I can't remember what you asked for.
Well, initially, I did ask for CPC, but I expected Dan to ask to stay on it. The other one I asked for was real estate and open space.
Okay. Anybody else have a burning desire to do real estate and open space? Okay, all right. So, well, Michelle had it before, but I'm putting in Bob's name right now. The other one, Bob, is you had energy and climate last year.
I did.
You want to keep doing that?
Um,
Do those folks ever meet?
Rarely, but I'm willing to.
Okay. Anybody else that has a burning desire to do energy and climate? All right, we're putting Bob in. All right, now let's get back up to the capital outlay committee. So this, for the last couple of years, Mark has done it with Dan. Dan did not express an interest in continuing on with that. So does anybody else want to be part of that process?
I would.
Okay. Anybody object to Scott being part of that? And I assume, Mark, you want to stay on?
Yep.
Okay, so Mark Kelleher. And Scott will be our folks on that one. Okay. Mark Amara had the assessors last year. We'll let that go for a minute. DPW. It's probably an advantage. Anybody want DPW, or do you want Dana to have it?
Dana's an expert.
He knows it.
Okay, Dana, you have it.
Right.
Make sure you report to work tomorrow.
That's right.
All right. I had police and fire last year, and we'll keep doing that if anybody wants to do it. It's okay. All right. Golf, Dana, somehow you ended up with that. I didn't know you played golf, but. So you want to do that? All right. Is your wife listening to this? Okay, all right, harbor and waterways, Angelo did that last year. Does somebody want to do that?
Yeah, you can put me down for that.
Bob? Okay, Bob wants to do that. Okay, planning board, Michelle had, I'd give her the opportunity to do that again, unless somebody else has a burning desire. I'll just pencil her in. Rec and youth, you had that last year, Bob.
Yeah, I would like to give the opportunity to someone else.
Scott, you have any interest in that?
Not particularly, but
Okay.
if you don't have anybody, I'll take it.
All
I had
right.
expressed an interest in the assessor's liaison, but again, you said you were going to talk about that later.
Well, I'm gonna sign you up for it right now.
Okay,
You're here,
great, thanks.
okay? How about rec and youth, just for fun?
Sure.
No, not for you. We have to give Mark Amorous something, so let's give that one to Mark, okay? Everybody all right? He'll probably won't like it, but. Yeah, I know, but he's got to, well, everybody has to take something, right? All right, the schools, Mark, do you want to keep going with the schools?
I'll keep doing the schools.
Okay. And then we have water, wastewater, which I had last year. If somebody else wants to do it, that's okay. Or I'll do it. All right, so I'll do it. All right. So I'm just going to read the list as I have it. So right now, year-end operating budget review team member is Bob McCready. The Brooks Academy working group is Scott and myself. Charter Review Committee is Dan and Dana. Capital Outlay Committee is Mark Kelleher and Scott Norm. Assessors, Scott. CPC, Dan. DPW, Dana. Police, myself. Fire, myself. Golf, Dana. Harbor and Waterways, Bob McCready. Library, Dan Torick. Planning Board, Michelle. Real Estate and Open Space, Bob McCready. Rec and Youth, Mark Amorez. The two schools, Mark Kelleher. Wastewater, myself, and Energy and Climate, Bob McCready. Is that jive with what everybody has? Okay, that's, so we'll make those, I'll update that list and circulate it to the team. Now, for those that aren't here, you know, you can horse trade with them if you want to at some point in time. It would be a little better if those three members were here and we were talking about this, but they're not, so we need to just move forward with that, okay? All right, so Dana, if you, let's see, if you need to get off the phone, we are gonna just talk for a couple seconds about the 204 Sisson Road. That was our next item. Scott and I are sort of working on this. I sent Scott a draft of something a couple weeks ago. We're waiting for your input, obviously.
I have some preliminary numbers for you that I was able to compile today, but they are not final. So.
Yeah, and we understand you're closing the books and, you know,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I don't know what your expectation is. You know, we get something in August, that would be great, but I don't.
Okay. Yeah, so I do have something if you are ready to move to that item.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So, there's a summary attached. That was something that had been previously distributed, but this is updated to be as of June 30th. The last one was as of May 8th.
Oh, okay.
For FY '24. And then attached beneath is a munis report with the revenue and expenses by account, which gives a little bit more detail and context.
Okay. Good. Good. And I think you know, I hope you know, that what we're trying to do is just, because there's so much talk about that building, you know, over the last several years, we're just trying to put all the numbers and thoughts on in one document, just to say, here's an observation.
Sure,
That's all.
of course.
And so that's where we're headed, you know, with this. Do you have any idea what the amount that the rents represent are?
Well, all the revenue that came in for the building specifically was $164,265. The artisan shacks were $550 in revenue. So unless there is revenue that's recorded for the building that is that's in that account, but it's not for rent, I couldn't tell you, but I never like to say I assume, but that is the revenue figure associated with that. If they're charging for other things, I'm not aware of it. It's probably, you know, the people who oversee the building probably could speak better to the, you know, the details about the rent.
So, but when you have when you reflect revenue here, it reflects the rents plus anything else that comes in?
Yeah, which I'm not aware of. I'm not that familiar with all the specifics of that building.
Okay.
I would defer to the department head for that building. I can just report what has been recorded in Munis.
Okay.
So they may have a breakdown of the 164,000 that would give us more detail.
Yeah, there may be more, you know, more context to that. I just know that, you know, all the receipts for that building over the course of the year are put in one Munis revenue account.
I mean, I'm just thinking that, that's just me thinking, and my observation is that the vast majority of the revenue for that building, at least at this point, is the rents,
Yes.
or are the rents.
That's a fair statement.
I would think that. And do you know, do folks sign up for 12-year leases, 12-month leases, or how does that work, do you know?
That I couldn't.
Okay,
I couldn't.
all right, I'll check with Kara or whatever.
answer.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is very helpful, and, you know, you have a little list of things that we're looking for, so, again, that would be very helpful when you get it.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, to reiterate what was one of the items in the email was, you had indicated some type of allocation. If you look at the Munis report, there are charges for salaries, you know, part-time year-round salaries for the municipal building. I'm not sure, you know, where the disconnect is insofar as we cannot transfer money out of the revolving fund for the benefit of salaries of other departments.
I understand that, but my look at it anyhow is that if we're looking at what the taxpayers are paying, if I bring someone over there, I'm just making this up, and their salary and wage is $100 while they're there. Let's say they're, I don't know, sweeping the floor, whatever. And they are employees that have benefits and, you know, overhead and medical, whatever, that somewhere that's getting paid. And so that building should, in my opinion, when I look at how the building runs financially, it should be charged the full cost of that individual being there. Now, I understand the revolving account, it doesn't work that way. My intent is to make a case that this really belongs in an operating budget. That we're not running programs there per se like we are at the rec department where they need necessary revolving fund because kids are gonna play t-ball or something like that. These are well-established rents with, I think, with a really good track record of what the cash flow is and everything else. And in my mind, there may be some small part of that total revenue that belongs in a revolving account, but I think ultimately it belongs in the operating budget of 204 Sisson Road. And if that's the case, I think somewhere when you look at, for instance, if the only revenue we had over there was rents, and we're saying we need to have the rents justify whatever the cost is of the building, then you know what is the cost. You gotta look at the true cost. So that's all we're trying to do. I mean, we're not trying to open a can of worms, we're just trying to say, hey, folks, because we get asked questions all the time, you know, and so let's put it to bed and be done with this. Anyhow, that's all we're doing.
Yep.
So I'm just curious, when I look at the expenses, the middle of the page, like electric utility, maintenance and repairs, are those all outside vendors or utility bills associated with the building? None of them are chargebacks of DPW or other town employees? As
No.
you said at the beginning, we don't charge those salaries.
Well, these
or
are things like,
Yeah.
you know, the operator, I mean, the elevator has to get inspected or
Yeah.
service
service
periodically.
contracts.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, so there are specific, there's utilities associated with that particular address and account, and so it
Yeah.
is charged to that. Any other expenses or, you know, for building maintenance, you know, the point being like elevator inspections, things of that nature, those are specifically charged to.
Because we're paying outside vendors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there are the capital items that are, yeah, well, no, I mean, the capital.
general
They were in the capital plan,
Yeah.
they're funded, and they get done, when they get done and they get charged, you know, they get accounted for. Right, that's one of the questions we asked, you know, what's the balance at the end of this year, last year, in the capital account, for instance. Right? And then we know we just authorized some new money, was it 1.9 million or something like that, going forward in the capital account, so it gets replenished to be spent on certain things. That's all.
Did the facilities department charge off the amount of time that they spend there? In other words, they're doing repair work there, painting work?
I can't answer that.
That just...
No.
Sounded like no, yeah.
See, I'm guessing.
Because it would be so cumbersome to actually
for
do a
different
project-based
Okay.
salary expenses.
Yeah,
because they
I'm
could
guessing
be-
the part-time stuff you see here are things like janitorial service, I'm guessing, because there's some amount of cleaning that has to be done in the building, and the trash has to get taken, I mean, just, you know, stuff, right? Now, I don't know whether the individual renter in one of those studios is responsible for their own area, I would guess they are, but I don't know, I mean, they run their own vacuum cleaners, I don't know.
Yeah, again, it'd be best, that information would be best provided by the department head.
Yeah, I'll just sit down with Karen and, you know, work that out. Okay, this is very helpful, and we look forward to the rest of it, and certainly, as I committed to before, when we come up with a draft of whatever this thing is, we're gonna circulate it back to make sure, you know, everybody, selectmen, you, town administrator, get an opportunity to say, hey, okay, we agree with those numbers or don't, or,
Sure.
you
I
know.
mean, however whatever is decided, that's what's decided.
Yep,
This makes me think of just one question that's kind of a general question about revolving funds. This $300,000 transfer that was, I guess, part of the article? I guess it's the same amount for the current fiscal year, 2025?
No, it has to be authorized each year.
Yeah.
The level, we did it at town meeting.
Right, and we did it.
It's not a transfer, it's an expenditure limit.
Yeah.
Right,
You
right.
cannot spend more than $300,000 out of that revolving fund.
So we had 6 or 7 or whatever, an article had 6 or 7
Yeah.
revolving funds, and we voted limits.
And it was 300 again for 2025, I
Yes.
think?
Yes.
Yep.
So if the revenues were to total 100,000, for instance, for some reason, and they spent the full 300,000, then the revolving fund would be negative at the end of this year. Is it starting with 191? Is that something that has ever happened, or would it would have to be funded with general funds?
Well,
Yes, it would,
Yeah.
correct.
yeah, but part of the problem is we're trying to say that we shouldn't be operating the whole facility on a revolving fund.
Right,
The vast majority of it should be an operating budget, and then a small, and I'm making this up, like a $50,000.
And to be fair,
Yep.
there's been, the last 3 years, there's been a net decrease against the revolving funds using previously accumulated funds.
Yep.
So if you did transfer everything to the operating budget, you would, those funds, that deficit would be made up through the levy. That would be tax
Right.
dollars.
Yep.
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 The fund would close out to free cash, that would be the end of it. You would start from scratch, and so that would be funded through the levy.
Yeah, and the good news is, I think, for doing that is you have a track record of monthly rents being paid. I assume they're paying monthly. So you've got a good cash flow as far as the income goes over the course of the year, instead of saying, well, I gotta start this thing and spend a whole bunch of money until I get to month 11, and then I get all my revenue or something like that. It's got a good cash flow to it, I think, on the revenue side. Yeah, yeah.
There's multiple ways of looking at it. I mean, I guess it's it's what the board and, if income decides
Yep, no, I understand.
to implement it.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're good.
Yeah, can I just ask one question?
Of course.
Who puts together the annual report?
All the departments have to submit a report for their department, and then who actually puts the book together, I'm not sure.
The only question, I brought this up at the last meeting, like our report has the base pay and overtime and details, but doesn't have the gross pay. And if you look at all the other town reports, they have the gross pay. So it's just, just one figure. Just a thought, when we put it again next year, so instead of having to add up 4 columns, a row, to get the gross pay there. That's all.
And when you say gross pay, you mean annual salary, right?
Well, it's the-
I make 180,000 a year.
No, I think the gross pay is their annual salary plus overtime plus training. So you see what the total amount that person earns. So in other words, there's the town of Dennis, and here's us, Harwich here, you'll see. We have base pay, seasonal, overtime, details, other, but not a gross pay.
No total.
No
those
total.
columns. I see.
Yeah, it's just a minor thing, but it's just easy to,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, maybe something that we could look at. I'm not sure. I would imagine there's got to be some report from Munis that could probably generate that. Some of those reports are a little harder to get than you'd think, but
Right, and I do think there is room for another column for growth.
probably within the book, yeah,
Yeah,
and the
there is-
report.
there
I'm
is
just
room.
not sure if, sometimes it is difficult to get the, to get all the information that everybody's looking for. Sometimes there's a lot of manual manipulation of that information.
Okay, we good?
Good.
All right.
There was
I've
just-
got a
Yep.
question, just to clarification on the chart. Relative to the 300,000, the approval is for 300,000 cap on expenditures, right?
Correct.
Not net expenditures, but just expenditures.
Expenditures.
So it has nothing to do with the revenue side.
No, it does not.
And so with the numbers you're using, the 188,000 for this year, that's the number that could have gone as high as 300,000 without triggering something.
Yeah, there's no limit on the amount of revenue that you can collect in
Right,
a revolving fund.
right.
There's strictly an expenditure limit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course, of course.
Now, we done?
I have,
Now,
go ahead, Bob.
I'm done.
You good?
I just have, this is maybe partly the website, changeover. But I've been looking for the new, I guess it's called the Comprehensive Financial Report for the town of Harwich. And it comes out, I guess, once a year. And I used to be able to find the old ones on one of the websites, whether it's the accountant's website or maybe the FinCom website, I forget. Now I can't find it anywhere. And I'm just wondering when the next one will come out and what year will it cover?
Yeah, so we have a comprehensive annual financial report, which is the audit in essence. We were waiting till the website was, was transitioned. It's only been like a few weeks.
Right.
So there are some, we didn't want to load everything up and then things wouldn't transfer over or there could be issues. So now that it is up and running and we will be starting to add the more recent documents and reports.
So what's the most recent one as of now?
The FY23.
FY23 has been done.
Yes, that's done.
And is that available to share? Can we ask to have it shared with us without it going on the website, or do we have to wait
Sure,
for
I have hard copy reports. I'd be happy
a
to.
PDF? Or
I believe so. It's extensive. It's
Yeah.
very, very large.
that's why I say
so-
PDF is
Yeah.
probably better.
I think we do.
Yeah.
I would imagine. we do.
I would like to see it because I just can't remember what I saw when it was available on the website and would like to use it as a study guide as a
whatever.
newbie.
It's okay.
No, it's great. We're
Yep.
glad people actually read it.
Yeah.
Probably gets, it's not on the New York Times bestseller.
Must be a lot of work though.
It is an extensive amount of work.
Yeah.
It is, it's extensive.
Okay,
You know,
thanks.
our auditors do a terrific job. We're very fortunate to have them and they help us guide us through the process. So
Right,
They are instrumental in getting that put together.
great. Thank you.
Okay, good?
Yeah.
Good?
Thank
All
you,
right.
Kathleen.
Sure, and
Thank
I
you,
just
Kathleen.
have one other thing. I know it's not on the agenda, so I don't know if
We're
it's
under
something
other.
I could address.
Under other?
But it was more for like if we had public comments. At the June 17th Select Board meeting, there was a discussion about the cell tower revenue and the affordable housing.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes.
So I want to correct the record. What was stated at that meeting was incorrect
Stated by?
by Select Board Member Howell. It was
Okay.
incorrect. So I will be submitting narrative and documentation and report that will clarify his comments and correct the record. But there is no missing money, there's no evaporated money, and there's been no transfers of money that would then be incorporated into free cash. We will not have a free cash shortage. We will not have any adjustments of that nature. Everything that was collected as cell tower revenue has been transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust. As of the date of the legal opinion from Attorney John Giorgio, now that it's been designated that that cell tower revenue is actually general fund revenue, there's a small couple of payments that will be transferred to the general fund, but tracked. So those will close out to free cash. It's a nominal amount, about $62,000. We may get another payment, so it could be a little bit more. They're not extensively large payments, but to be clear, so those will close to free cash, but those will be tracked, and so transfers to the Affordable Housing Trust can be done via an article, and they can be funded by free cash. It's always the intention to make sure the Affordable Housing Trust is funded properly, and that information and those amounts are properly tracked. But there is no missing money, there's no evaporated money, there is no issues, and there will be no adjustments to free cash because of that.
Go ahead.
Questions? So then, looking back at history, and I'll go back, I'll just pick on a date, 8 years ago or something, the revenue from that cell tower went where, I guess?
We had some of the issues because it's been so old. I had to actually reach out to the company that leases the cell tower from the town. So I have done a lot of research on cell towers and leases and agreements and rents. So it was originally set up in 2003, 2002, 2003. The one article was voted from 2004 to 24. There's only been one article ever voted at town meeting with respect to the Affordable Housing Trust and the cell tower revenue. In 2004, an article was written such to create the Affordable Housing Trust, and that in turn would be funded by cell tower revenue through the rents received from the lease agreement that was at the time through Sprint. There's been multiple changes in ownership, which is to be expected. It's, you know, they went from 20 carriers to 4, as everyone well knows. So that, we did not make any changes to that, but because it is so far back, it's hard to track it in Munis because I was still looking through that. So I have gone back to 2019. I looked at some other things, the way it was closed. But I never saw funds really being put anywhere other than the Affordable Housing Trust. But because you know, the records are pretty far back and it's a little harder to track, I'm not comfortable attesting to things from, say, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I can tell you, based on the research I was able to do from 2019 to 2024, is the period of time. It was a 5-year period, which I'm comfortable speaking about. There has been, there was timing issues because it was just common practice. It wasn't an actual documented thing, and due to the transition and loss of institutional knowledge within the accounting department, just knowing, oh, by the way, this is something that gets done, that got lost in translation, as it were. So there was delays in transferring funds from the cell tower revenue special revenue account to the Affordable Housing Trust. But the money was in the cell tower revenue account. There was never any question or concerns, like that money didn't go anywhere, it didn't get lost, it didn't get reallocated. It just happened to be there. And you know, when myself and my colleagues, we started to dig around and go, do you know what this is? No, I don't know what this is. Do you know how it happened? No, I don't know what happened. So we had to do some research. We really had to kind of recreate it. We're going to do a better job of memorializing it to make sure that we don't have this again. And also, this will be addressed in the way things are funded in future, and we'll make sure that it's tracked. But that's what.
So it was accumulated in this cell tower account
It was.
over the years?
It was.
Because there was no statutory affordable housing trust in Harwich until fairly recently, actually.
2016, maybe?
Quite
Yeah.
before we actually, maybe even newer than that, before we voted for that, the statutory affordable housing trust, as opposed to some other kind of fund or trust or something else. But that one that we now have that's under state, again, statute, is a very recent
Well, we also have an affordable housing
trust.
special purpose stabilization fund. That's a completely different fund. And it can get a little confusing because it's very similar terms. That is, it's under Mass General Law, under special purpose stabilization funds, that is treated differently. So that is something where those funds can only be voted out at town meeting. It's voted in and out at town meeting. Whereas the housing trust was kind of handled in a different manner. It's a little less formal.
Well, again, the current one, the one with the separate committee and yada, 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 that's a very recent, for Harwich, that's a very recent item to exist. But as you used from a date, the cell tower revenue goes back quite a while.
Yes, it does.
And was getting accumulated in a cell tower revenue account.
Right.
So there is a record in Munis of all the history of how much revenue we have gotten from the cell
Yeah.
tower.
We have most of it because of just how far back it goes in Munis. I wasn't sure. I'm still doing research. I kind of started from the most relevant in research because I didn't have like lease documents to kind of refer back to.
Right.
You know,
Right.
things got archived. Not to say that anything's lost by any means, it was just archived. And sometimes you don't remember what year it got archived, so. But we did find everything. You know, it's just, you know, not to put too fine a point on it, but there was, I think the concerns were like funds within the last 5 years or so. But, so there was confusion about transfers, and so the biggest issue was the transfers just weren't made. I think in FY '22 and FY '23, I think because there was nobody in the accounting department who knew about it. You know, just due to just the changeover. So I just wanted to, you know, make everyone comfortable to know there's no issues with free cash. That was the biggest concern, and that
So the,
Affordable Housing Trust is.
so the revenue that came from the cell tower in, again, I'll pick a date, 2012, 2010, the actual cash did go into free cash?
It did
Or
not.
it did not?
No, it is a special revenue fund. It would never be closed out
It went into the
for free cash.
the special, it went into the Affordable Housing Special Revenue Fund? Is that where it went?
It would have either stayed in cell tower revenue, or for some reason it had been voted by the select board at various meetings over
Yep.
time,
Yep.
that they would vote to transfer funds. I don't know. They must have been prompted by somebody at some point within the accounting department, I guess. I can't speak to that, so, but it was either in one of the two funds. It was never closed out to free cash.
So the money accumulated,
Well,
Yeah, the money would
the- the-
accumulate.
never spent.
The actual cash was accumulated and never spent, never included in free cash. It was being accumulated for all the history of the cell tower.
Yep. Special revenue
And-
never closes out to free cash.
And what's the total number we're sort of talking about? You know, roughly?
I will, just because I don't want to like cause issues with like non-agenda items
Yep,
or whatever.
yep.
So I do have, it'll be a full report of all the accounting of
That's all
everything.
right.
And that will
Great.
be in the agenda packet. That should post next week for the meeting on the
Alright.
July 22nd.
Well,
Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up and the clarification.
Yeah, it's hard to, like, you know, especially if it's weekly. It's now bi-weekly, gives you a little more breathing time, but it's
Yeah.
very difficult to put all this stuff together and get it in by like Monday.
Yeah,
You
no, I
know,
understand.
when you find out about it on Friday, so I have a little bit of breathing room. I missed the deadline for the July 8th meeting, but it will be in the July 22nd meeting. I just want to make sure that it's clear, and you know, there's a lot to it, especially when you have legal opinions, and there was, you know, extensive discussion about it, and I just wanted to set the record straight.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
it created quite a lot of confusion by itself.
Yep, but yeah, I'm not sure how the information that select board member Howell like came to be. I don't know what his source documents were. It was a scheduled vacation day I had planned, and I know that Attorney Giorgio was going to present the opinion, but I didn't know they were going to have an extensive discussion about it. Otherwise, I would have tried to shorten my vacation.
So did the special revenue account, that accumulated balance, was that ultimately transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust account
It was.
in fiscal '24, the year
Yes.
just ended?
Yep. We communicate, Larry Valentine of the Affordable Housing Trust reaches out to us to talk about balances. There's also funds that are transferred into that from the CPA fund. So that's another funding source, but I just didn't want to kind of, you know, muddy the water, as it were, just looking at that one revenue source. But there are other revenue sources for the Affordable Housing Trust as well.
So we will make sure we tune in to the
Yeah.
selectmen's meeting on the 22nd.
Absolutely. Wouldn't
Didn't
miss it.
mean to, like, you know,
That's okay.
show too much in the movie previews.
No, I
or,
understand.
you know.
I understand. Yeah.
I have
attractions.
I have just one other totally unrelated question. There was some talk at one of the select board meetings recently about the usefulness of forecasting. I think that the statement was to know where we're headed, which is always a good thing. And it was in the context of, I think, a 5-year financial forecast. And I remember seeing that mentioned actually in the latest ratings from Moody's, our latest AAA rating certification. One of the reasons was good financial management in general, and in particular, the fact that the town maintains a 5-year forecast. Do you have any past copies, recent copies of that you could share with the committee?
We had one that we were working with the state on because of of the different issues that we were facing. We didn't have all the information that they needed at the time. We're going to revisit that with them. If there was other, like previous year's forecasts, I'm sure I hate to say it, I'm sure they're somewhere. I'd have to honestly, I'd have to look. I'm not familiar with prior years.
Yeah.
They may be part of the budget from prior years. I haven't had a chance to really research that.
Even if it was something that I could flip through in the office, I'd love to see the format of that, because it looks like there's a lot of discussion in the select board about kind of rejuvenating that process to see
Yep.
what going out to 2029 or 2030
Yeah,
looks like.
5-year plan.
Yep, yeah, there was definite interest in pursuing that again.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
all right. Thank you, we'll let you go.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
My
you for your
pleasure.
time, we appreciate it.
Of course.
I'm writing down July 22nd as a... Okay, other?
Other.
One topic I'd like to bring up anyway for consideration is our calendar. When we meet, that second Thursdays is periodically problematic, I know, for me, and we've had some meetings on Wednesdays. I would like to at least have people consider whether or not a different day works for them or what. I mean, doesn't happen every month for me, but it does happen on occasion.
Is it normally once a month, except for the heavy spring budget season?
Yes.
Well, I for one am indifferent at 6 p.m. any weekday, except for Friday. Would be good for me.
Okay, second Wednesday's problematic for me, like yesterday. Was I had a church finance committee meeting and I'm the chairman of that, so that
Yeah.
goes on until,
Yeah.
Whatever.
How about the days that you have a conflict, if we know, we could, the following month, we could just change it.
I like
just throw that out.
I like that idea.
We could run the second Thursday. The only thing,
Be-
if you do that, I just need to know so I
Yep.
can
Enough.
make sure this room is reserved.
Well, and that we discuss it the week, that we discuss it in advance, perhaps.
So do you know, like for the next 12 months, what your conflict
I
will
know
be?
I think I know for the next 8 months. I'll have to check,
Okay, so
go
why
through
don't I
the
suggest
calendar.
you communicate with the clerk,
Okay,
and the clerk can then maybe put something together, just a simple calendar that says, okay, in January meeting this, whatever, September
Yeah.
meeting this, and by the way, we have a conflict on this particular month, like November, so how about we change it to this, or here's a couple of suggestions, right?
Okay, and if we have a conflict, is Wednesday night you have conflict?
As long as it's not the second
Okay,
Wednesday of the month, I'm okay.
okay. Let me know, Bob, and
I
we'll work
will.
it out, and we'll run it by Peter.
great.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. Other.
I just have a general question about, for instance, this 5-year forecast. I know it's on the list of objectives of the select board that they discussed, I guess, at the last meeting. What is our involvement in either designing or reviewing the format? I mean, that sort of a forecast could take so many different formats of various degrees of usefulness for various audiences. And as representatives for the taxpayers, I guess that's one of our major roles. What is
Well-
our role in making sure that that is a useful document for those taxpayers?
I think that you start with just basic munis reports and say, okay, what is our input on that? None, right? Because it gets pumped out from the state. I think that our input is, as the selectmen advance and talk more and more about doing something like this, at some point there's going to have to be some kind of structure put together that says, we think a forecast includes this or has these elements to it. And I think that would be our point in time get involved, unless we want to own it, and I don't think we do. Because we don't have the horsepower to get things done like that. It's like Sisson Road, we don't really have the horsepower to go and tear things apart with all these different entities,
Right.
you know. We're trying to work through a liaison to do that. And in order to do a comprehensive 5-year plan, you gotta have the data, right? I mean, the information is so important, so.
Yep.
I would suggest, since I know you have an interest, I think we all do, that maybe you just keep paying attention to it.
Okay.
And keep us in the loop as to what you learn.
Okay.
It's okay? Yeah.
And just one other thing, when I've read some other town reports, their ambulance receipts go in a separate fund. So when they fund new ambulances, it comes out of that fund. And just a thought to look at what other towns would do to see if it would be advantageous to us. And I remember the fire chief says, well, all our money goes to the general fund. It would be, I think, you know, it would be a positive for them to see all the money they generated and then into a separate fund, and that would fund to a great degree the ambulances. I just happened to see it in either Dennis or Yarmouth's report. Just a thought for future.
Yeah. Hello.
Dana.
The general fund so that we could do it that way.
Dana related in my head was when it was originally set up, the ambulance fund. It was set up so it did go into the general fund. And the rationale, as he explained it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dana, was that
Yeah.
because the total cost of running that department is so much higher than what those fees are coming in, that it was elected not to do that at that point in time. I mean, you know, other folks could say that you can put that money into something else. I mean, it does stay within, basically, I think if you look at the revenue, you have to look at the actual revenue from ambulance fund. But what goes into the general fund, Dana's right, does not cover the cost of running the whole department. So when you're buying ambulances, of course, it's a capital item, right? That we end up voting on as an individual thing in the capital plan to get done, right? And it gets funded. There is a concept that, and I guess Dennis uses it, to put together a separate dedicated account that says, okay, we're building up an account to buy ambulances. But it's also not giving relief on the taxpayer side for running the department. It's helping to offset those things. So it's a catch-22. I mean, it's small.
I just happened to notice it. Just throwing it out there for
Yep,
consideration.
no, I understand. All
I
right.
just wanted to make the point that it was thoroughly discussed at the time.
Okay.
And quite frankly, we're getting a little bit far afield here, and I don't want to get too far, but when we started talking about, you know, there was a big resistance initially about trying to recover ambulance costs, and we had to be primarily because some folks thought that, well, maybe someone won't call an ambulance, they're going to send them a bill. So we get into this whole thing about you send them up to, I think it is 3 bills, whatever, 3 invoices. If they don't respond to reply or don't pay for it, you forget about it. You know? So, and then there was and they may have it, for a long time, it was a selectman designated to be basically the arbitrator or dispositioner of delinquent ambulance charges. I did it 1 or 2 years. I mean, you know, you get all these hardship cases and whatnot. Or you get people from East Oshkosh that are visiting the Cape and they don't think they have any responsibility for paying for it. I mean, you get that kind of stuff. So we're getting a little bit far
Yeah,
afield.
that's
so.
fine. I just happened to
All
notice
right,
it.
other. Okay, good. So Dana, you can go back, you're in talk. T-O-K.
All right.
Would you send us some pictures? I mean, I've been watching on Facebook, but I mean, you know.
All right. I'll send you some pictures.
Okay,
It's
good.
Lovely town.
Okay, so with that, we are adjourned, and let's shut off our recording, if you will. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Dana, for taking part. Thank
Enjoy.
you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. We couldn't have done the business without you here, so, all
Yep.
All right,
right.
talk to you.
Yep,
Bye.
bye. Complications of not having